or was it not useful? So let me try my hand at explaining uh, my experience on user personas. So to start with, I'll talk about two experiences that I actually had. The first time ever, I did it for an NGO. The challenge that I had was I did not have access to real users, but I had access to someone who was a field worker and who had the right empathy on what the user was going to go through. I was able to construct the right picture of the user. This was on women's health, so this was a very touchy, sensitive topic. So we had to be very careful on constructing personas, and we also have to work around the constraint of actually going around and asking questions to users or even studying users. That was just impossible at the time. So we had to rely on personas. So we use personas to understand which features were important, how do you build it, the sensitivities around it. The way this helped us was that it was a very powerful picture that we had on who our user was and what features we had to build for that user, how would they use it, what are the constraints they had every day, their access to a cell phone, their ability to read a specific language, their ability to access something, the constraints they would have with respect to budget and all those things. So it was a very, very eye-opening experience the first time I actually used personas. We had to also use personas because we could not ever get access to real users. The best time ever was working with a retailer. We got to do the entire gambit of all the activities to come to a user persona and use it as well. I was able to do user research along with the user experience designers, and we also had a market research team, which actually had tie-ups with proper research companies that actually got in users. We were able to test our prototypes with the end users, able to study them, ask them pertinent questions on what would they do, even what do they do in their everyday life, what are their constraints, and we kind of had a good mix of users for 5 days. We studied them for an hour each, and we constructed personas from there, and then we were able to communicate to the team what we were trying to build. And obviously we also had users access to the users later when we had to test our prototype and all the other things, working prototype and all the other things. So these are the two times where I found that my experience of working with personas was very gratifying and was very helpful. Now, that is not to say that it is not without its challenges. So there were some challenges. So let me talk about a couple of my challenges. The first one was we had to work for an Indian retailer in defining a new experience. This was about defining a gift registry experience. So this was in 2013. Gift registry was not was not an existing concept in India at the time. I don't think it's existing there today as well. It's a pretty new concept. I had to do an ethnographic study of users in their shopping environments. Most users were new to the concept of gift registry, and hence we were unable to convert their shopping behavior and the daily life to the design of the product. In hindsight, it turned out to be very shallow user research, and we did not focus on aspects important to the product. And hence, our construction of our personas was very weak. We used demographic data, which is something that I called out earlier, as a proxy, and that did not turn out well. Hence, we actually had to junk out all the personas that we created, and we actually had to blindly go with design and then kind of put it in front of the users. The other time, we were building a decision support system product for retailers. We reached out to lots of users in their own environment on a decision support system. What we found out was it is very important that you get more time to study users at the time they make the decision, because it's not easy for them to mimic a decision for a study. It's not easy. So what we realized was, while you construct a persona, you also need to, number one, like in the first example, as I said, need to do a more thorough research on what they do, why would they need a product, why would they not need a product or a service, and you also need to invest the right kind of time and money in studying them a lot better. So these are the key challenges that we had. I'm sorry, I'm not able to share more details on what these learnings were. But to go back, I think personas have worked well when you have to construct something out of a very detailed user research, where you can correlate the user's current environment, their current set of tasks, and help the people in the team empathize with the user and then build that into a feature set. And that's basically the idea behind it, right? And these are the two places where we failed, or rather, we did not succeed. And the reason was because number one, shallow research, we did not focus on aspects important for the product from the perspective of the user. Like, for example, in gift registry, has a user ever tried to gift something and has struggled with gifting it? Is he open to trying new ideas? Is he open to asking somebody what they wanted today, or is he or she okay with going to a site rather than asking somebody? Is that even a problem today? So we did not focus on some of those things. It is hindsight. Hindsight is always 2020. With respect to user access, it's that you might have all the things that you want, but it might still not be enough for you to be able to build a persona. When I say build a persona, it's about being able to understand how the current information is available for you to be able to build a persona. So these are the two key challenges that we had, that at least I had when I was working with personas. Pretty much what I had to share. Please keep your questions coming. I'll try to answer as much as I can based on my experience, or we can get somebody else who's a guest speaker to kind of add more to the personas as in this thing. Thanks, people. Bye-bye.